Whenever you have two rivals, the competition between each makes both of them better, and the snowmobile industry is no different. Now, two of the biggest rivals are Ski-Doo and Polaris, especially in their 850 class snowmobiles. Now, I've already done afterburns on both of these sleds, so I thought now is a good time to do a comparison on them.
The world is spinning and I'm dizzy staring at the stars. I left the pages in my schedule, but they're falling hard.
Now, when it comes time to choosing a winner and a loser on this, I'm going to be upfront and tell you right away, I'm not going to do that. That would be impossible between these two sleds. Sort of like choosing which child is your favorite one and telling the world about it. Instead, I'm going to go through a number of details on each one of these sleds, but maybe point out which of these sleds does these details a little bit better than the other. To begin with, these two models aren't a perfect match for a direct head-to-head comparison. Now, the Polaris Matrix would better match up to maybe the MXZ-X or the TNT, where the Polaris XCR, that's not a Matrix, would be a better matchup to the XRS. But I realize this, and I'm hoping to take these differences into account with this comparo. To begin with, both these sleds are top performers and not built for amateur riders. And to realize the performance potential of either one of these rides, you have to know what you're doing, and that starts right with the setups. Each of these machines have a ton of adjustments, allowing you to dial them into the way you ride or to match conditions. But compared to the Matrix VR1 or even the XCR, the Ski-Doo has way more adjustability when you take into account the new R-Motion X rear skid frame. Next, between these two machines, there is no question which one is the warmer of the two to ride. Even equipped with an aftermarket windshield on the new design of the Matrix chassis is noticeably better. From your hands, to your body, to your head, to your helmet, air management is better on the Polaris. In cold temperature, there is no question which sled I'd rather be on. Connectivity is also very similar between these two models if they're optioned correctly. Now, both Ski-Doo and Polaris systems can be Bluetooth enabled to connect to your smartphone, they have mapping functions, and the displays can be configured the way you want them to be. But I think the Polaris has it with the 7S display and the Ride Command feature. Either way though, I think we're going to see a lot more of this style technology in future snowmobiles. Ride and handling is a little different category to judge on. Each machine is very different to ride and suit different riding styles accordingly. The Ski-Doo seems to take a bit more effort to really get the most out of it, but if you put the work in, it'll reward you with a very planted feel to it. The 850 Matrix, on the other hand, seems to be a bit more of a lively ride experience. It feels lighter and more responsive, and therefore your body English seems to go further. It's actually pretty hard to tell which one of these machines would be faster on the trail because both are extremely quick. However, the more animalistic experience of the Polaris makes it feel a bit more exciting to ride. The Ski-Doo is also very sensitive to suspension tuning, even more so than the Polaris. Get out of your window on the XRS here and it either gets harsh or develops an understeer problem. For me, I've already got a few hundred clicks on this sled, and so far I've taken a lot of the preload out of the front spring on the skid and backed the compression dampening off quite a bit all the way around. I find I can now make significant changes quick with the remote torsion spring adjuster on the running board and fiddling with the compression settings to chase conditions. This thing is working good for the way I like to ride, and it's very predictable on the trail. If I was heading to places like New Brunswick with fast sweeping corners on trails that are impeccably groomed, I would probably take an inch or two out of the ride height and suck up the limiter strap to help keep that inside ski planted when railing fast curves. You have to remember, the XRS is designed for jumping and taking on the biggest whoops out there with a suspension that feels a mile deep, and it's delivered to you this way. The tall suspension does come with a sacrifice of high-speed cornering. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Spend time tuning your suspension and your snowmobile will reward you for your efforts. The Polaris Matrix 850, being more of a GT machine, has better initial setup for performance trail. Even the XCR version is a little tamer compared to the Doo. The Matrix is definitely softer, but in a more realistic tuning window. It also transfers weight quickly, hiking the skis way up in the air with just the slightest lip on the trail. The amount the chassis pitches can actually be a bit of a problem at night when you're trying to see what's in your light just in front of you. It either points up at the trees when you hit the gas or right down at the trail in front of you when you're on the binders. It's fun though, and I like it. Lively is a good way to describe the ride experience of the Polaris, but it's controlled liveliness and the chassis responds well to your body English. I really like the controlled chaos of it all. It's also got what feels like more power on top compared to the Ski-Doo, so I like that better too. Now, the Ski-Doo does hit harder and backshifts more aggressively when down low, which does take some getting used to at slow speeds or in mundane situations like loading your sled on the trailer or pulling up to the gas pumps. With any speed at all though, this trait of the Skidoo is a non-issue. Another detail I like on the Polaris better is the brake system. It requires less effort and has a satisfying noise to it, which is not only fun to listen to, but also something you can use to let you know if you're braking too hard when trying to be just on the threshold of locking up heading into a corner. The Skidoo's disc is down on the drive axle, and it just doesn't give you the same feedback. It's still very good, it just takes a little bit more effort. Now that is all about stopping, and I know the big question between these two machines is all about going, so I'm going to answer that right now. There's no question, the faster machine is the Polaris. Now, I can already hear the steam coming out of the ears of you Skidoo fans and your fingers banging away on the keyboard to disagree with me on this. But again, between these two specific snowmobiles, there's just no question the Polaris is just faster. What I don't have is a radar gun readout to back up that statement. It was just me and one other fella out on the ice with no cameras around having some fun. But it didn't matter if it was a drag race or a roll-on or top speed. We even switched between sleds. At the end of the day, the Polaris was always just a little bit quicker. But that was our results on that day between these two specific machines, so your results may vary. I'm not asking for forgiveness here by saying this, and frankly, I think top speeds are basically irrelevant. Who rides at top speeds all the time other than riders who live for radar runs? Now, if you are that person, you'll spend time tinkering with your machine to make it better anyway, so stock numbers are just that. Plus, if you're serious about absolute velocities, you Skidoo fans would probably not be starting out with an XRS. For me, it's about the overall package, and both these sleds are excellent snowmobiles. Choosing which one is the hands down best is absolutely impossible, and I said that off the top, I wasn't going to choose. However, if I was going to choose, I do like the suspension of the Skidoo, but I also like the power and the feel of the Polaris. So I guess if I was going to choose one between these, I'd combine them together and go with the Polaris XCR. But that's a me issue, and you can completely disagree with me if you want.
It's hard to know what is real, gotta follow what you feel. Running